somebody that's on the end of the continuum, say type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetes, how do you feel about them doing something more drastic like a ketogenic diet, carnivore diet, really cutting the carbs down, even temporarily to get that metabolic health back as a tool or longer term?
There are many people for whom that works really, really well. An entire organization in the US, Virta Health, which has reversed a lot of type 2 diabetes, is focused on a ketogenic diet. The Diet Doctor organization, which has great content, is doing that. Ken Berry, Carnivore MD. There's a lot of people focused on that. And it can be a tool. But, a big message that I have is like, I am not here to tell people what strategy is the right strategy for them because everyone's biology is different. There's two things that I think we know for sure. One is that we need to be eating unprocessed, real, nutrient-dense food. Like step one for anyone, whether you're vegan or carnivore, is eat unprocessed food, ideally grown in good soil without the toxic stuff sprayed all over it. That's step one. Literally don't care if you're vegan or carnivore, eat high quality, real food. Two, track your biomarkers every few months and see if you're moving in the right direction. Is your insulin dropping? Are your triglycerides dropping? Is your HDL going up? Is your blood pressure going down? And if the answer is yes, I would recommend probably continuing that strategy until they're in the right range. But I can't tell people keto is the right diet for them. I can tell them that real food is the right diet for them and to track their biomarkers. And frankly, I don't think we should trust anyone who tells us a particular diet strategy to do because there are people who are not doing keto, who are doing 100% whole food plant-based and slashing their insulin levels. So I'd say out of all this research and writing a 400-page book on this topic, those are the things I can tell you. Eat real food, not covered in toxic crap, and measure your biomarkers every few months and track your symptoms to know if it's working and make adjustments if it's not. And you will know. Like it will, if you commit, like things will change and you will have a sense. So that's kind of the main things I think. Yes, absolutely. There are people for whom a hardcore keto diet is working wonders on their health. I don't think that's necessarily a strategy for everyone. And yeah, the commonality is moving to a higher quality unprocessed diet.
All right. What I was getting at specifically, though, is just the urgency.
Yeah.
Like somebody who has a chronic disease and they really need to kick things into high gear and they might not necessarily have the time to do it in a slower fashion, whether it be, their metabolic health as a whole or a specific disease, cancer, yada, yada. What I was getting at is just specific tools such as going really low carb. We could bring fasting in. We could bring different tools in that somebody who's really trying to radically bring themselves down quickly because their metabolic health is so out in left field.
Yeah.
Just trying to give them some different ideas that might help. Me and you are in a different category where we're tweaking and our metabolic health is good. But somebody who is, like 600 pounds, type 2 diabetic, to me, it's a different scenario where if I'm in their shoes, I'm going to be looking at things like fasting, keto, maybe carnivore to jump back, at least to get to a baseline of where they're in a maintenance mode.
Yeah.
So just curious on, again, keto or other tools if somebody wants to do this quicker because they're feeling like they're in crisis mode.
Yeah. It's so interesting having been on, both in the sort of keto community through my work at Levels. There's a lot of people who are keto in that, but also having been really deep in the whole food plant-based movement. And it's like, I've actually seen massive changes like in both. And, and I think the reason I'm like, so I think even though it might not sound so radical, like moving just to saying like today, I'm never going to buy like ultra processed food again. I'm literally going to eat only things that are like whole foods that came from the earth, chicken, broccoli, steak, whatever it is. The reason that's actually so radical is because real food, and the reason I focus on quality is because it's going to have more nutrients in it to actually stimulate the nutrient sensing cells of the gut. They will trigger satiety mechanisms that basically get you to eat so much less. The more you put the reason we're eating ourselves to death, literally in the United States, eating ourselves to death in the Western world is because our bodies aren't actually getting what they need. And so they're driving us to eat insatiably to basically in hopes of the cells getting what they need to function properly. So if we can just kind of like, it is actually quite extreme and radical to just give the body, the cleanest, highest quality food possible, because it will essentially get you to radically change your hunger cues, I think, and change your microbiome, which then over the long term changes the way we interact with food. So, I would say for someone, they could go whole food plant-based, they could go carnivore. It's really, I think, where their inclination is, like, or somewhere in between, like I've heard of people eating literally, they were hundreds of pounds overweight, and they're like, I'm going to eat chicken breast and broccoli for every single meal for the next 2 to 3 months and like, lose a bunch of weight, because it's real food. I would not recommend that necessarily, but it's not like it has to be one extreme. I think that tightening the eating window for most of us, it's like 15 hours. So like finding a way to tighten that. But one key thing there is it's going to be easier to tighten that eating window if you're eating real food, because you're going to be less hungry, right? And getting the insulin down. And so getting rid of all the processed sugar, all the processed grain, it's going to bring the insulin down, and that's going to let us tap into the fat stores that make fasting much less difficult. So yeah, I think some combination of time restricted feeding, maybe some extended fasts, eating real food, of really any dietary dogma, and checking biomarkers every few months for the first, as you're doing the initial entry point, like that's great. And if what's really nice is that there's a lot of services now that will deliver a lot of this food to you. If it's just too hard to think about preparing all this food for yourself, like if you're plant-based, you could buy all your food for a month from Daily Harvest, which is all organic, plant-based food, and put, a can of salmon on top of it. And like that's one way to do it. And then there's a lot of more like ketogenic meal plans that can deliver to your house and things like that. So there's ways to do it that kind of make it easier. But yeah, and then just trying to think, I think the other important thing to do in conjunction with that, if you can, is to think about the other aspects of your life that could be hurting the mitochondrial function and trying to pick a few of the highest leverage ones you can change. Because there's a lot of things that can hurt our mitochondria aside from the food. It's the not moving enough, environmental toxins in our lotions, shampoos, deodorants, cleaning products at home, the artificial light or not getting enough sunlight during the day. So really thinking about, okay, what else is blocking my mitochondria's capacity to make the energy I need to be metabolically healthy, and then chip away at those. And so some of those can actually feel, I think, a lot easier than changing the food at first and make you feel a lot better. So just like, one that costs money but doesn't necessarily take any like real effort is just like clean out all the products in your home that we know are endocrine disruptors. The scented candles, the air fresheners, the scented lotions, the scented shampoos, the makeup that's not non-toxic, the bleach, the cleaning supplies that are scented. Just change all those out. That will immediately help your mitochondria be freed up to do better work. So it's one of the things in the book that I give to people is like quizzes at the end of the book to basically take stock of each of the factors of our lives that we know impact the mitochondria. See where there's the highest leverage room to improve, and then just start to pick a few things that are doable and accessible and easy to you to start cleaning up the environment for the mitochondria. And for many of those, it's a lot easier than changing our whole diet, but can have really, really positive impacts on our metabolic health.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch a full episode. I'll see you over there.
Everyone needs to care about this because metabolism and metabolic health, it is the core foundational layer that all health is built upon. That is the biggest blind spot in Western healthcare.